There's literally a semi blocking my driveway. I explained to what hold on, I just got an email about you. His voice changed. It's from someone named Victoria Peters saying you're involved in a serious HOA dispute and might be unstable. She's suggesting we reconsider your client accounts. My stomach dropped. She contacted my work. That's completely inappropriate. After hanging up, I marched straight to the community mailboxes where Victoria always collected her mail at 10 a.m. sharp. Sure enough, she was there, surrounded by her loyal followers, the Johnsons and the Murphy. Victoria, we need to talk, I said firmly. You contacted my employer. She smiled sweetly. I was just concerned. Unstable home situations often reflect unstable work performance. Mrs. Johnson nodded. We all worried about you, dear. This has gone too far. I said, remove that truck from my driveway immediately. Victoria's smile disappeared. Back down now, or we'll make sure you can't access the lake at all, she hissed. The board has emergency powers. Are you threatening me? I asked loudly. Just stating facts, she replied, then turned to her friends. See what we're dealing with. As I walked away, Mr. Murphy called after me, just fix your violations. It's not that hard to follow rules like the rest of us. By afternoon, I noticed someone had placed community watch signs directly facing my property. Neighbors I'd barely spoken to were suddenly finding reasons to walk past my house, phones in hand, taking pictures. I called 3 different lawyers, but none could see me until next week. I felt trapped and isolated, exactly as Victoria wanted. Then I remembered Derek mentioned his daughter worked for the county records office. I called him immediately. Derek, can your daughter access Crystal Bay HOA financial records? I think something fishy is happening. He agreed to help. While waiting, I dug through my moving boxes for my original closing documents. After an hour of searching, I found the home buyer's package with the original approved plans for my property, including the driveway specifications that matched exactly what I had now. My doorbell rang. It was Mrs. Johnson's 8-year-old son Tommy, holding a handmade card. My mom said to give you this, he said shyly. The card read, we're praying for you to find a new community that fits your lifestyle better. Your concerned neighbors, they were trying to pressure me to move out over a driveway. My phone buzzed with a message from Derek, come over now, you need to see this. I slipped out my back door to avoid the neighbors watching my front. Derek's house was 4 doors down, and I had to duck behind hedges to get there unseen. Derek's dining room table was covered with papers. His daughter Alicia was pointing at spreadsheets. Look at these HOA financial statements from the last 3 years, she said. See anything strange? I scanned the documents. There's a monthly payment of $55,000 to Lake Management Services. Is that normal? Not for a lake this size, Derek said. And look who owns Lake Management Services. He slid over a business registration. The company was owned by Raymond Frost with Victoria and George Peterson listed as board members. They're paying themselves $60,000 a year from HOA funds. I gasped. That's not all, Alicia said, pointing to another document. 3 waterfront properties have been foreclosed for HOA violations in the past 2 years. All were purchased by shell companies linked to the same Raymond Frost. The pieces started coming together. They're forcing people out to buy lakefront properties at below market prices, and guess which property is next on their list? Derek said grimly. The realization hit me like a truck. The same truck blocking my driveway. That guy in the suit must be Raymond Frost, I said. But why are they so interested in my dock specifically? Alicia pulled up a county map on her laptop. Your property has the deepest water access point on the entire lake. It's the only spot where larger boats can dock. Just then my phone buzzed with an email alert. The HOA was calling for an immediate vote to restrict lake access for properties with outstanding violations. They're moving fast, Derek warned. Tomorrow's meeting is a setup. As I headed back to my house, I noticed a black car parked down the street. Through my security app, one watched a woman approach my front door. She wasn't from the neighborhood, dressed in a crisp suit with her hair pulled back. She rang my doorbell, looked directly at my camera, and held up a badge. My name is Agent Sofia Martinez with the FBI, she said clearly. We need to talk about your neighbors and this lake. It's urgent. My heart raced. The FBI? What had I stumbled into? FB? What's this about? I stammered, stepping aside to let Agent Martinez in. My hands shook as I offered her coffee, spilling some on the counter. Her face remained serious as she declined. I've been watching your neighborhood for 6 weeks now, she said, placing a folder on my kitchen table. Your troubles with the HO caught our attention, but not for the reasons you might think. Agent Martinez flipped open the folder, revealing photos of Victoria and George Peterson meeting with strangers at odd hours around the lake. I recognized the man in the dark suit from my security footage. What am I looking at exactly? I asked, leaning closer. Money laundering, she replied flatly. We believe the Peterson have been using the HOA funds to clean dirty money. All those random fees, sudden assessments, and contract changes weren't just annoying, they were criminal. My jaw dropped. Wait, so the truck blocking my driveway isn't about silly rules? Martinez shook her head. Your property sits at a key access point to the lake. You bought this house 3 years after they started their operation. They've been trying to control who lives here ever since. She showed me bank statements with huge payments to companies that didn't exist. Lawn services charging $50,000 pool maintenance for $75,000 when our community pool had been Closed for repairs. We've traced connections to Raymond Frost, she continued, pointing to the suited man. He's linked to 3 different crime families across state lines. My stomach nodded. So I'm what in the way? Precisely. Your driveway blocks the route they've been using for night deliveries. Your cameras might have caught something they don't want seeing. I remembered the odd lights on the lake last month, boats moving without running lights at 2 a.m. I thought they were just night fishermen. We need your help, Martinez said quietly. Your cameras might have captured evidence we need, but we're still building our case. Can we count on you? The weight of her words hit me. This wasn't just about a petty HOA fight anymore. It was dangerous. I'll help however I can. I promise. Martinez looked relieved. Don't let them know you're A to them. Act normal. Keep complaining about the truck, but don't back down. We'll have agents nearby. As she headed toward the door, I spotted Victoria's silver Mercedes cruising slowly past my house. Martinez ducked away from the window instantly. She's watching your house, Martinez whispered. This might be trickier than I thought. I walked Agent Martinez out through the back door. As she left, she pressed a small device into my hand. Panic button. Direct line to me. Use it if anything feels wrong. I spent the afternoon reviewing my security footage, finding several clips of boats docking at my neighbor's pier at strange hours, men carrying heavy crates. George Peterson supervising. I downloaded everything to a flash drive and hid it inside a fake outlet cover I installed behind my refrigerator. Darkness fell as I made dinner, jumping at every sound. Around 9 my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Board. I never expected a simple HOA dispute would uncover a criminal empire operating right in my lakefront community. How could I have known that standing up to Victoria's petty SemiTruck blockade would put me at the center of an FBI investigation and make me the target of dangerous people who stop at nothing to protect their secrets? Comment below where you're watching from. I slammed on my brakes so hard my groceries flew off the passenger seat. There it was, a massive yellow semi-truck completely blocking my Lakeside driveway. After a 14-hour drive back from visiting my sick mom, this was the last thing I needed. What in the world? I mumbled, grabbing my phone to take pictures. My beautiful view of Lake Willow was now hidden behind this ugly truck. Who would do this? I didn't have to wonder long. Victoria Peterson, clipboard in hand and bright red lipstick perfectly applied, marched toward me with that fake smile I'd grown to hate. Oh good, you're back, she called out, waving her manicured hand. We've been trying to reach you, Victoria. Why is there a semi-truck blocking my driveway? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady despite my exhaustion. Her smile hardened. Well, after careful review, the HOA board discovered your driveway violates section 7.3 of our bylaws. It's 6 in wider than permitted and the wrong shade of concrete. She tapped her clipboard. The board voted last night we needed to lock it off until you fix it. My jaw dropped with a semi. Are you serious? I've lived here for 5 years with this exact same driveway. Victoria's eyes narrowed. Rules are rules. Perhaps you should have read the bylaws more carefully before making unauthorized modifications. I hadn't modified anything. This was how I bought the house. I took a deep breath, remembering my doctor's warning about my blood pressure. Can I see the paperwork for this decision? I asked. I'll have it sent to you within 10 business days as required by our procedures, she replied smugly. In the meantime, you can park on the street. The street is half a mile from my house, I protested. Victoria shrugged. Not my problem. Perhaps next time you'll think twice before rejecting reasonable HOA proposals. And there it was, the real reason. 3 months ago, Victoria and her husband George had proposed draining part of the lake to build a private tennis court. As one of the few lakefront property owners, I had spoken against it at the community meeting. They'd lost the vote badly, and Victoria had been giving me the cold shoulder ever since. This is ridiculous, I said. You can't just block people's driveways because of personal grudges. Victoria gasped, putting her hand to her chest. I'm simply enforcing the rules that keep our property values high. Unlike some people, I care about this community. As we argued, my neighbor Derek Wilson walked over from his yard. Derek was retired military and the only person who intimidated Victoria. Everything okay here? He asked. Arms crossed. Victoria's fake smile returned. Just handling HOA business. Derek, nothing to worry about. Derek looked at the truck, then at me. Seems like a pretty extreme measure for whatever the issue is. Tell me about it, I muttered. Victoria clutched her clipboard tighter. The board's decision is final. The truck stays until compliance is achieved. With that, she turned on her heel and marched back to her house across the street. Derek waited until she was out of earshot. They've gone too far this time, he whispered. That truck's been here since dawn, and I caught Victoria taking photos of your property yesterday while you were gone. This is insane, I said, unlocking my phone. I'm calling a tow company. Derek shook his head. Already tried. They won't touch it without permission from whoever parked it here. And guess who authorized the parking permit? Our lovely HOA president. I felt trapped with my car full of groceries and nowhere to unload them. I had no choice but to park on the street and carry everything to my house. By the way, Derek said, helping me with bags. Have you checked Your mail. Several neighbors got violation notices yesterday. Seems like Victoria's on some kind of power trip back at my house. I dropped the groceries and immediately checked my security cameras after someone vandalized my boat last month. I'd installed a comprehensive system covering my property. The footage showed the truck arriving at 5:30 a.m. Victoria had directed the driver where to park, making sure it completely blocked my access, but that wasn't all. Around midnight the previous night, Victoria hadn't been alone. A man in a dark suit I'd never seen before had walked my property line with her pointing at my dock and taking notes. Something wasn't right. This felt bigger than a petty HOA dispute. I pulled out my property maps and original house documents. The driveway specifications matched exactly what was approved when the house was built. There was no violation. As I studied the paperwork, an email notification popped up on my phone, a message from the HOA board with the subject line, "Multiple violations requiring immediate action." I opened it to find a list of 12 alleged violations on my property, each carrying a $100 daily fine, until resolved. My doorbell rang. It was Derek again, looking concerned. "You might want to see this," he said, handing me a flyer. They all over the neighborhood. The flyer showed a poorly photoshopped picture of my house with a caption, "Property values at risk. Don't let one bad neighbor ruin Crystal Bay Shores." It announced an emergency HOA meeting tomorrow night to discuss problem properties threatening the community. "They're turning the neighborhood against me," I said, feeling a KN form in my stomach. Derek nodded grimly. "Victoria's husband George is going door to door saying your illegal renovations could lower property values by 15%. People are scared." I knew I needed to fight back, but how? As I watched the security footage again, I noticed something strange. The man in the suit had taken special interest in my Lakeside dock, even taking measurements. Why would Victoria bring an outsider to inspect my property in the middle of the night? My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Be careful, the HOA is not what it seems. Check the financial records." I stared at the message, wondering who sent it and what they meant. Looking out my window at the semi still blocking my driveway, I realized this was just the beginning of something much bigger than I could have imagined. Who was the mysterious man with Victoria, and what were they really after? I woke up to the sound of car doors slamming. Rushing to my window, I spotted 5 neighbors gathered around the semi pointing at my house. Victoria stood in the middle, clipboard in hand, nodding dramatically as she spoke. I couldn't hear what she was saying, but her body language told me everything. She was putting on a show. I grabbed my coffee and checked my security cameras. Night footage. The mysterious suited man had returned at 3 a.m. this time with a flashlight, examining my dock from different angles. What was he looking for? The anonymous text from yesterday kept bothering me. Check the financial records. I logged into the Crystal Bay Shores website where HOA documents were supposedly available to all residents. Strange, the financial section showed access denied. When I called the management company, they claimed it was a technical issue that would be fixed soon. My phone rang. It was my boss. "Hey, just checking if you're coming in today," he asked. "I'm trying, but meeting tomorrow. Your property violations will be discussed. Final warning." I took a photo of the message and sent it to the contact Martinez had given me. Minutes later she replied, "Perfect evidence of harassment. Keep collecting." While brushing my teeth, I noticed a car parked across the street. Someone sitting in the driver's seat watching my house. One of Victoria's spies or FBI protection. Either way, sleep wouldn't come easy. I double-checked all my locks and set up a chair under my bedroom doorknob. Just as I was finally drifting off around midnight, a sharp crash jolted me awake. The sound of breaking glass downstairs sent ice through my veins. Someone had gotten inside my house. My heart nearly jumped out of my chest as glass shattered downstairs. I grabbed the panic button Agent Martinez gave me and pressed it immediately, then grabbed my phone to call 911 with shaking fingers. I tapped out a text to Derek, "Help, someone's in my house." Heavy footsteps moved through my living room. I crept to my bedroom door, opening it just a crack. A beam of flashlight swept across my walls. "Check his office first," whispered a voice I recognized instantly. George Peterson. Victoria said he printed out the financial records. I heard drawers opening and papers shuffling. They were looking for evidence. "What about the cameras?" Victoria's voice came from my kitchen. "Raymond says if anyone sees the dock deliveries, we're finished." I started recording on my phone, capturing their conversation. My legs felt like jelly as I backed away from the door. "Check upstairs," George ordered. "I'll look for his computer." Footsteps headed toward the stairs. I had seconds to hide. The bathroom seemed too obvious, so I slipped into my walk-in closet, pulling clothes in front of me through a crack between hangers. I watched Victoria enter my bedroom, flashlight beam dancing across my rumpled sheets. "He must have heard us," she hissed. The bed still warm. My phone vibrated. A text from Derek. "Police coming 3 minutes." Victoria yanked open my nightstand drawer. "Nothing here," she called down. "Keep looking," George shouted back. "Raymond wants those files gone tonight." Victoria headed toward my closet. I pushed deeper between hanging clothes, praying she wouldn't look too carefully. The closet door creaked open, and her flashlight beam cut through the darkness. I held my breath, feeling sweat trickle down my back. "Victoria," George called urgently from downstairs. I found something. She hesitated, then turned away. I exhaled silently as she hurried back. Downstairs it's a flash drive, George was saying as I crept to the top of the stairs, but it's password protected, take it anyway, Victoria snapped, and grab his laptop too through the banister. I watched them ransacking my office. George stuffed my laptop into a bag, while Victoria pulled out desk drawers, dumping contents onto the floor. Look what else I found, George said, holding up papers. He's been tracking our bank transfers. Victoria snatched them. That meddling idiot, I told you we should have gotten rid of him months ago. Raymond didn't want to draw attention, George reminded her. Well, now we have attention, Victoria snapped. FBI agents in unmarked cars watching the neighborhood. My blood ran cold. They knew about the FBI. Someone's coming, George suddenly whispered, peering out my front window. Headlights swept across my lawn as a car pulled up. Victoria grabbed the bag with my laptop up. Get everything we need to go out the back, she ordered. I heard distant sirens. The police were coming, but not fast enough. Victoria and George were about to escape with all my evidence. Without thinking, I flushed the toilet in the upstairs bathroom, then slammed the door loudly. He's up there, Victoria yelled. Footsteps pounded up the stairs. I dashed into the bathroom, locking the door just as Victoria reached the top landing. Open this door right now, she demanded, rattling the handle. Police are on their way, I called back, trying to keep my voice steady. Break it down, Victoria ordered. George, the bathroom door shuddered as George slammed against it. I braced myself against the sink, watching the doorframe crack. One more hit, and they'd be through. Blue and red lights flashed through the bathroom window. The police had arrived, but too late. The door splintered as George broke through. Victoria pushed past him, her face twisted with rage. Give me that phone, she demanded, lunging for me. I ducked away, but George grabbed my arm. Victoria snatched my phone, but missed the panic button I still clutched in my other hand. You have no idea what you've gotten yourself into, she hissed, deleting the recording I'd made. Drop the phone, police, a voice shouted from downstairs. Victoria's eyes widened with panic. The back door, she told George. They shoved me aside and ran downstairs. I followed cautiously, hearing officers enter through my front door. Victoria and George disappeared through my kitchen toward the backyard. Seconds later, I heard shouting, then a crash in George's yelp of pain. I ran downstairs to find two police officers handcuffing Victoria in my kitchen. Through the open back door, I spotted George sprawled in my flower bed with Derek standing over him. Tried to run, Derek explained, grinning despite a bloody nose. Figured I'd help him trip the officers. Victoria and George away. Minutes later, Agent Martinez arrived, surveying my ransacked house. You're lucky, she said gravely. These two were just the start. Raymond Frost doesn't leave loose ends. They knew about the FBI watching them, I told her, still shaking. Martinez frowned. That's impossible, unless she pulled out her phone and made a quick call. We need a sweep for leaks now. After hanging up, she turned to me with a grim expression. This goes deeper than we thought. The HO wasn't just laundering money. We believe Crystal Bay Shores was deliberately established for criminal purposes. She unfolded a map of the lake, pointing to underwater terrain features. This lake connects to 3 different counties, perfect for moving things without crossing main roads. What kinds of things, I asked, not sure. I wanted to know everything from drugs to stolen goods, she replied. But we need hard evidence beyond what we found tonight. She looked at me seriously. You're now central to our investigation, which puts you in danger. Raymond Frost won't stop because his associates got arrested. A chill ran through me as Martinez's phone buzzed with a text. Her expression darkened as she read it. What is it, I asked. Frost knows about the arrests, she said, and we just intercepted a message. He's coming here himself. I woke up to angry shouting outside my window. A crowd had gathered on my lawn. Neighbors I'd lived beside for years, now glaring at my house like I was the criminal. Victoria's closest friends, the Johnsons, were handing out flyers with my photo and the words FBI informant in bold red letters. He's trying to destroy our property values, shouted Linda Johnson, pointing at my house. The Peterson built this community, and he's working with the government to tear it down. My phone rang. It was Agent Martinez. Don't engage with them. We've intercepted messages suggesting Raymond Frost has eyes on your property. Stay inside. I peeked through the blinds as Derek pushed through the crowd, trying to reason with them. The Johnsons shoved him back. This wasn't just about an HOA dispute anymore. The neighborhood had become a powder keg, and I'd apparently lit the match. My doorbell camera alert pinged. Someone had slipped an envelope under my door. Inside was a USB drive and a note. I worked as Victoria's assistant for 2 years. She kept separate books. This proves everything. The file showed exactly how the Petersons had been stealing from us: fake invoices, phantom contractors, and properties purchased through shell companies. They'd embezzled over $2.3 million meant for community improvements. Our sky-high HOA fees hadn't been funding better services. They'd been funding the Petersons' secret lake house in the Cayman. I called Martinez immediately. This is the proof we need. We have to tell everyone. We need to move carefully, she warned. Raymond Frost isn't just some hired muscle. He's connected to serious organized crime. Victoria's operation was laundering money for people who don't like loose ends. While on the call, I noticed a moving truck pulling up to the Murphys' house across the street. They were loading furniture in a rush, looking terrified. I'd known them for years, quiet people who never caused trouble. I hung up and ran over. Tom, what's happening? We can't stay, Tom Murphy whispered, glancing around nervously. Last Night someone smashed our windows and left a note saying we'd be next if we attended any community meetings. This is crazy, you can't let them scare you away. He pulled me aside away from his wife and kids. Listen, 6 months ago Victoria forced us to sign over part of our property for that community garden. That never happened. When we threatened to get a lawyer, George showed us pictures of our kids at school. Tom's voice cracked. We're not the only ones. The Wilson, the Garcas, at least 8 families have been threatened. This wasn't just fraud, it was systematic intimidation of an entire community. I showed Tom the financial records, and his face hardened. Everyone needs to see this, he said. Not just our neighbors, the whole town. Together we decided to organize an emergency community meeting. As I prepared my presentation, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Cancel the meeting or the lake house burns tonight. I forwarded it to Martinez, who immediately sent agents to secure my property. We're setting up surveillance around your home and the community center. This might be our chance to catch Frost. The meeting was set for 7:00 p.m. at the community center. By 6:30 over 50 residents had arrived, more than any HOA meeting in history. Even families who'd moved away returned, eager for justice. I was reviewing my notes when Derek rushed in. Someone just spotted Victoria's brother in the parking lot. He doesn't even live here. Before I could respond, the lights flickered and went out. Emergency generators kicked on, casting eerie shadows across frightened faces. Then we heard it, the unmistakable roar of a diesel engine through the windows. Headlights cut through the darkness. The same semi that had blocked my driveway was now barreling straight toward the community center's main entrance. People screamed and scattered as the truck accelerated. I froze, watching in horror as the massive vehicle aimed directly at the building where 50 of my neighbors, including children, had gathered to finally learn the truth just seconds before impact. Blinding lights flooded the parking lot. FBI vehicles appeared from nowhere, blocking the truck's path. The semi swerved, crashing into a retaining wall. Instead of the community center, agents swarmed the vehicle, weapons drawn. I watched in shock as they pulled Raymond Frost from the driver's seat, blood streaming from a gash on his forehead. Agent Martinez rushed inside. Everyone stay calm, we've secured the area, but we need to move quickly. As frightened neighbors huddled together, I connected my laptop to the projector. Before tonight's chaos, I discovered something you all need to see. The financial records displayed on screen silenced the room. Even Victoria's staunchest supporters gasped at the evidence. Fake companies, missing funds, and properties secretly purchased with our money. The Petersons have stolen $2.3 million from this community over 5 years, I explained, pointing to highlighted transactions every time they raised our HOA fees, claiming it was for better services or lake maintenance. The money went straight to offshore accounts. Tom Murphy stepped forward. They didn't just steal our money, they threatened our families. His voice shook as he described the intimidation tactics used against those who questioned the HOA's decisions. Linda Johnson stood up, her face pale. I didn't know. Victoria told us you were trying to destroy the neighborhood to build commercial properties on the lakefront. That's what they wanted everyone to believe, Martinez explained, but the real reason they targeted your neighbor was much darker. She showed satellite images of our lakefront on the big screen. 4 years the Petersons and Frost have been using an underwater tunnel system beneath the lake for smuggling operations. Gasps filled the room as Martinez continued. When our neighbor built his dock and driveway 5 years ago, he accidentally blocked their primary access point. Rather than find another route, they decided to force him out through harassment and HOA violations. Derek Wheel in a TV showing live footage of FBI divers at the lake. They're removing evidence now, but we've already found drugs, weapons, and stolen goods. The semi was their latest attempt to re-establish the route after we arrested Victoria and George. My hand trembled as I clicked to the next slide. This isn't just about me. The Petersons targeted many families. Photos appeared showing 8 properties around the lake that had been forced into sale or significantly restricted through sudden rule changes. Each of these homes blocked potential access points to their tunnel network. An older woman I barely knew, Mrs. River, began crying. They made me sell my house of 30 years because I violated landscaping rules. I lost everything. The meeting lasted hours as neighbors shared similar stories. Some admitted helping Victoria out of fear, others from genuine belief in her lies. The community I thought I knew had been living under a shadow of corruption and threats. As dawn approached, FBI crews were still working at the lake. Martinez pulled me aside to a window overlooking the water. We found something else during the dive, something they were very desperate to keep hidden. She showed me photos of waterproof containers pulled from the tunnel, documents, hard drives, and ledgers. This isn't just about smuggling. The Petersons were collecting blackmail material on influential people throughout the county, judges, police officers, business leaders. Is that why they targeted our neighborhood specifically? Because of the lake access? Mars nodded. Crystal Bay Shores wasn't chosen randomly. George Peterson's father was a contractor who built this subdivision 30 years ago. The tunnel were part of the original design, disguised as drainage infrastructure. The weeks that followed were chaotic. News crews camped outside our gates. Neighbors who'd been at each other's throats now united in shock and anger. The FBI interviewed Everyone piecing together years of corruption. Victoria and George refused to cooperate, but Raymond Frost cut a deal revealing connections to crime syndicates in 3 states. Dozens of arrests followed, including 3 county officials, who'd helped to prove suspicious zoning changes. 1 month after the failed truck attack, we held new HOA elections. Derek won unanimously, promising complete transparency and reasonable rules. His first act was eliminating most of Victoria's ridiculous restrictions. From now on, this HOA exists to serve the residents, not control them, he announced to applause. The FBI recovered much of our stolen money. We voted to use it for actual community improvements, a real playground, repairs to the clubhouse, and environmental restoration of the lake. After the tunnel system was properly sealed, my driveway, the innocent catalyst for everything, was officially declared compliant with all regulations. The Semi was sold at auction, with proceed feeds going to families who'd lost homes to the Peterson schemes. 6 months later, life at Crystal Bay Shores had transformed. Neighbors who once avoided each other now held weekly cookouts. The lake sparkled again after proper maintenance. Our fees were actually funding this time. Yesterday, I sat on my dock watching kids swimming and families picnicking along the shore. Linda Johnson walked over with a plate of cookies. I still feel terrible for believing Victoria's lies, she said, sitting beside me. You weren't the only one. Fooled, I replied. They spent years building that deception. She smiled sadly. You know what's ironic? If they just let you keep your driveway and found another smuggling route, they might never have been caught. I laughed at the absurdity of it all, how a simple dispute over concrete had unraveled a criminal enterprise and united a divided community. As sunset painted the water golden, I realized is something profound. My stand against an unreasonable HOA violation hadn't just preserved my property rights, it had freed an entire neighborhood from fear. Sometimes the biggest battles start with the smallest assist. Now, when I pull into my Lakeside driveway each evening, I no longer worry about violation notices or neighbor complaints. Instead, I'm greeted by waves and smiles from people who learned the hard way that community means standing together, not standing in line behind a clipboard-wielding tyrant.